Welcome to Creative You Knitting and Crocheting Podcast. I'm Katherine Kirby from Pennsylvania. I own a yarn shop. If you're new, and I do have some new subscribers, welcome. For everybody returning, let's have a good time. So I usually keep my podcast to about 30 minutes, and I think that's good time for everybody, but I also give a Christian message, and that's at the end. And I hope you join me for that. Whether you're a believer in Jesus Christ or you're not, there is good news for everybody, and we all need that in today's world. So it's been about a month, and I've been crocheting and knitting a lot. I even started a sweater and a cardigan. So in the beginning of the month, I started making coasters, and I have a lot of cotton yarn that just kind of sits in the shop. I love this pattern because, and it's not the only pattern like this, but it's the neat thing that you do at the end that gives it the scallops. This is a bright pumpkin. I don't know if it shows up bright enough. And then I made a large one for the table, so I made 6. And then a larger one to put a candle on. And amazingly, you can often get this out of just one little ball of yarn. And then I did some without, I did some with another pattern, Simple Coasters by Zharana, that have like a little shell at the top. And I had this nubby yarn, and do you ever like have a yarn and you just think, oh, this should be for this? I kept thinking it should be for a doll's hair. I kept picturing this doll with ponytails and kind of this nubby yarn, but I have some left. So out of a little ball, I got 4. And then this is the yarn. It was a classic Elite yarn. This kind of twisted, kind of nubby. And this simple coat. Then I did some without the edging. So I just did a double row of slips. I thought these would be nice. We don't have wine a lot, but if somebody was serving wine, because these are a rich wine color. So I did those. And then I had some really super bulky cotton, and nobody wants to buy that, but it makes a really good coaster. So just one little ball. This is just half doubles, like you would start a hat, and then you do half doubles around, and then you do half doubles and one double, and then that's it. So out of one little ball of yarn, I got 5 and a little one for a candle in the middle. And those are the rest of those. So out of one ball of yarn that you can get, it's really a great gift to give somebody as a housewarming. We just have new neighbors, so I think it would be nice for me to go down there and give them. These are called leaf coasters by Katherine. It looks like the word Laight, but it's Laight. And if you look her up on Ravelry, she has like different colors of these, which look really pretty. It is a fun pattern. I mean, all of these work up very quickly. It's just kind of like a circle, but you start elongating it. And I had this yarn that was kind of like a nylon cotton. And so I got 3 made out of one little ball. And you know what? It could just be for a table centerpiece to put a candle or a little vase on. So what's been going on with you all? What are you making? Please tell me in the comments, because I would love to know. I knitted a dishcloth, and it's out of a book called Nifty Dishcloths. But I started it at one time, finished it at another, and I must have gotten off a row because I got a different pattern. And you know, you have to decide how perfect you want things to be, because it didn't bother me. It's a dishcloth or a washcloth. This is a neat yarn by Knitting Fever called Painted Cotton. It's a quality cotton. It's a luxury cotton. I've made kids cardigans and hoodies out of it. It's a pleasure to work with. Your fingers don't get sore. Some people say when they're crocheting with cotton, their hands get sore. And I think it's because you don't have that easy flow of the hook in and out. There is a way when you're finishing up any crocheted project and you're finished and it doesn't look finished, you need to take it in the front, around the back, and back in the front of the next stitch, and it will actually make a fake stitch. And it's not as hard as it looks if you just think about it. So you have your yarn that you've cut, and now you're going to bring it in this side, bring it around that side through the back and out, and it will make a stitch. If you're not sure, there are videos. I'm going to intermix the knit things and the crocheted things. I'm just going to mix them up. So there is a pattern called Scarlet. The Scarlet Hat by Merin McManus Collins. And it's basically the same as a pattern called the classic garter brim hat that I've made by Knitosophy. Except this one is done with a chunky yarn. And she has puts a big button or a big bobble on the side, but just not sure that's fashionable anymore. I mean, things go in and out, like the pom-pom phase or pom-pom still is popular. Knitting and crocheting, and it's fads. One year things look great, and the next year I don't want a button on a hat. So I guess it's just depends. So these are made with Ella Rae Lace Merino Aran, which Ella Rae had this whole line called Lace Merino, which was confusing to people because they weren't lace weight. The lace weight one was, but I started out with this color, and I was really surprised at the striping because usually their variegated colors work up like this or this. So I didn't realize that I was going to get stripes, and it's really fun. Lime green and dark green and blues and purples and magentas. So the pattern says, she says, I am a tight knitter. You have a nice decrease up there. So you might want to use a bigger needle. Well, I kind of followed, and I really got a kid's size hat. So I liked the stitch definition. I really didn't want to go up a needle because I think hats should be warm. And so the next hat, I think I was calling this the Vineyard because of all the colors. This one I was calling Ocean Depths. I put on 60 stitches instead of, I think, 50. And then after I did the brim, I increased by 8 stitches, I think. So that was the second one. This yarn is really nice and soft and squishy. And then I did the one I call Strawberry Fields. This is more of a pinky red than it shows, a much brighter. And then I did the Sunshine Hat, which I know some people that love love yellow hats. So I did the sunshine hat. So that was it for the Scarlet or the classic brim hats. They were fun. You can do one in an evening if you have some time. We found some good movies that we like called the Princess Cut movies. They are free on YouTube, and it's Princess Cut 1, Princess Cut 2, and Princess Cut 3 just came out, and they're all about the same family and the same actors and actresses, so it's really, really nice. So we'll give the hats a break a minute. Crocheting wise, there is a designer who has lots and lots of baby blankets and afghans, and this is her knit look waffle blanket. Now, I could picture this blanket in this mauvey color, like I had it pictured in my mind, but part of it is the yarn. You always tell people if it's not working out, it's either the yarn, the hook, the pattern. And now I've added, or it might be you. Maybe you're having a lot of stress in your life. You can't focus or concentrate, but the reason why I'm not going to finish this, you can see my things line up. Sometimes you single crochet in the front, sometimes in the back, but when you're on the right side row, you can't tell. It's only when you turn it that you see you were one off. And this yarn, it's Carlton Silky Aran. It splits. It's not plied. So when you're trying to work through the back loop, or it's awkward and you're splitting the yarn, I think for every knitter or crocheter, it comes a point where you have to make a decision if you're willing to put the time, dedication, perseverance into a project. And sometimes it's worth it. And other times you're like, no, because there's no enjoyment in it. It's stressful. And most of us knit and crochet or weave or spin to be relaxed. And there's something called synchronizing. So if you're in a group of knitters or crocheters and you're all sitting there knitting and crocheting, this amazing thing happens where your respiratory rate and your heart rate all synchronize to the same rhythm. You also see that in classical music at a concert. The music is peaceful or it gets excited and people synchronize. So when you're sitting there and you're stressed, it's not. Now some projects it does acquire perseverance, dedication, and when you're finished, you say, you know what, this really wasn't fun, but this was worth it. So I'm going to show you one such project. I have this yarn. I think it might be called Oceana. I'm not sure. I need to put a stem on this. I did kind of like a heart leaf because I looked at real pumpkin leaves and they kind of look like hearts. But this is a nubby yarn and it has these, it's a piece of yarn and it has these fringes that stick up. These curly fringes. Well, the problem is whether you're knitting or crocheting, unless you skip the fringes and just do another crochet stitch, they have to go through your hook. And I like the finished result. I tried to do puff stitches to make it nubby, but it was really difficult in that you really had to pull. And after just doing this one pumpkin, my shoulder got really sore for probably a week. And you have to, when you do stuffies, you have to do the stitches tighter or your stuffing is going to show through. And I guess I could take the yarn and bring it down really tightly like that and make divisions like a pumpkin. I could do that, but I really don't know what to do with that yarn. So a few years back, did the Wee Susan by Tega Hillard, which is a free pattern. So it's for an infant-sized dress. This is a yarn called Nova Cotton, and I like the way it almost had like a tie-dyed effect, and there's your back. And I did notice that the front kind of slips down a little bit, and that really didn't bother me, but if it did, I could start out with a smaller needle. I put a cute little button on the back. It's a top down, so you start up here, you put your markers before the sleeves, you increase before and after with yarn overs, and very simple. And then when you get to the skirt part of it, these are just yarn over, knit two together, spaced out, and then a garter stitch bottom. So why am I showing this to you again? Well, because I decided to do another one. This is a yarn called Ella Ray Phoenix DK Prints. And when I first got it in the shop, I wondered if people were going to pay that much for this yarn. 251 yards for, I think, $16, but now it sells for about $12.99. But when you start thinking about price, this yarn is $6 for a small ball. But what if you have to open up a third one? Now you're into $18. That doesn't bother some people, but some people can't afford that. And it is nice to have cotton for a baby because their skin can breathe, they can sweat. So when I made this one, oh, it's a shame that looks so orangey. It's kind of like a peachy orange. It has magenta, it has a taupe color. I thought that even though this yarn says it's a DK weight, to me it seems really more like a sport weight. It's really thin. And I thought that who wants to make a dress that doesn't fit an infant? So I went up to a 7. This was done on a 6. Let's see here. This was done on a 7. So I think the bottom one looks about the same at the top, but maybe a little fuller at the bottom. What I really didn't think about is how the stripes were going to line up. So I almost wish that I hadn't put all the rest of the garter stitch on there at the top, but the yarn over knit two togethers kind of poof out with this yarn. They kind of like come out like that, unless you, I guess you block it and pull it down. However, when you count out how often you're going to do this, it would have fell here. And I didn't think that would look right. So just let the color play out. And when I got to the next color, then I put it. And then when it came to the taupe again, I decided to do the garter stitch border, and I ran out of yarn. I had bound off almost to the very end and ran out of yarn. So when that happens, you have two choices. You can either take all the stitches that you bound off, which is not fun, or you can open up another skein of yarn, which isn't so fun when you're binding off. I'm going to open up a second skein because I'm going to make a little DK weight sweater, but I didn't like on this one the way that flops down. And again, I was working on a 7, a US 7, not a 6. So I don't know if I just, I guess, let it go. But if I did it again, I might do this on a 5. So that is the Wee Susan by Tega Hillard. Here is a different color of Phoenix DK print. That one was called Jello Shot Orange. This one is called Mulberry Jelly Joy. And I found this pattern that I would like to do called Lavender Dress by Adeline 2 TOO. I think it's still a $5 pattern, but this one you can do 6 month, 12 month, 18 month, 2 year, 4 year, and 6 year. And at the shop, we do a lot of charity knitting and crocheting for Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. And everybody likes to do baby things. And I think it's time for me to start thinking about the older kids and the older children. Okay, this is something that I want to do. It is, and maybe this is why I don't have a lot of viewers, because I don't follow the format that everybody else does. I just kind of, this is called Crochet Corn Cob. And I have this yarn that is Cascade Cherub DK. And I just started the little bobbles. I think the color is really going to be great. I wish I had a little bit more brown in it, but I hope to show you that on the next podcast. And then you do a big green leaf that folds around it, and that leaf is actually, you know, fairly big. And this is a free pattern by, well, at Abanis Verdon by Anne Bank Nielsen. Okay, so the crochet corn cob. And let's see here. I think I already showed this, the Flutterfly Shrug by Mon Petit Violon. She has so many cute girls patterns, but I now have this started in a dark green cotton, which thought would be cute for fall with a print top. When I compare this with the photograph, I don't know, maybe it's the yarn that I lost some of the pattern definition maybe, but I just feel like I need to do it again. And then just to be fun, I did a crochet dishcloth in a nubby cotton yarn, and I did the 2 double crochets, chain 1 single crochet, and you just keep going and it makes this pattern. There's a pattern on Ravelry Free called, I think, the Mindless Scarf, and she uses this pattern. Now, having said that, I was on YouTube and I saw a video with like thousands of views, and it was called the Tulip Stitch, and it was this. And to me, that was kind of hype, because I've never heard it called the Tulip Stitch. It doesn't look like a tulip, and yeah, it was actually quite a turnoff to me. So I've been experimenting with mohair a little bit. This is just a classic bulky hat, but I took a skein, just 1 skein of Noro Kureyon in blacks and like a sienna bordering on red and a muted gold, but I put a navy blue, a dark navy strand of, I almost thought it was black, but it was called Midnight Navy, with it. And it really muted the stripes, but it made it very warm and lush feeling. And then I did another one, and I did it with another 1 skein of Kureyon, which was blues and and greens and yellows. And at first I didn't really like the yellow at the bottom, but then I kind of, and the mohair is a teal. You always want to think about what you learn. When I joined it, I think I was on the wrong side. I think I should have joined it the other way, because then I got like a garter rim. And the true right side is in here, which I guess the hat could be reversible, right? I guess. I mean, I don't know why not, but just something that you learn, right? It's something that you learn. So it's a difficult time in the world. I kind of feel like we're in Matthew 24, and a lot of people are having layoffs and trouble with their life and money and family. And I was feeling kind of down. And I think, if anything, God is so trying to teach me to look at Him and not at circumstances. Whenever we feel down, it's because we're looking at circumstances. And there's a verse in Isaiah 26:3, you will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed or fixed on you. And that word fix it's permanent fix. Now, God made your mind so you can't think of two things at one time. So when you're thinking about a problem or distress, right away, start praising God and thinking about all His goodness. So I was telling God that I didn't really feel like anybody cared about a lot of things that my husband and I are going through. And a couple things happened that I wanted to tell you about. Susan Goller, who moved to West Virginia, used to be local and we were friends. She sent me a love box. So I posted her things on my Facebook page. She sent me an apple. When I opened the box, it looked like this. And I thought, oh, is that like a hand that holds the apple? But no, this is a cute little crab. So she makes these things and sells them. And a cute little pumpkin. And it's soft and squishy. I like that. Look at this hat. Isn't that so cute? I love it. And a lemon. Love it. Oh, I love it. So if you go to my Facebook page, you will also see a cute little lion that Cheryl Clunk made. It was her first amigurumi attempt. It turned out great. But, probably a good 6 weeks ago. I don't know. I was at the shop, my yarn shop. I went there early on a Saturday because I was supposed to teach a class and the class canceled. And sometimes you're so sad that you know you're going to cry and you just cry. And other times you're so sad that it's just like your soul is distilling and you're dripping tears, and it's beyond your control. It's not that you want to cry. You just are. And I was sitting at the shop, for probably 4 hours at a table. Nobody came in. And usually I have a rule. I don't cry in this shop. I was just sitting at this table, dripping tears. And I said to God, will you send a special friend? Will you send a special friend now? If you had asked me what I meant by that, I don't know. Because I feel like my life is being liquidated. I told my husband, I feel like I used to take photography class in college, and to put a white piece of paper into that chemical and see all these images come forth and get first light and then medium and then darker and darker. And you have to decide, when the exposure's right and pull it out. But I feel like I had all these people in my photo and they're just all getting lighter and lighter and lighter and going away. And I don't have a special friend. I don't have a best friend. And I heard a pastor say that, God will liquidate your life, and it's a clear path to him. There's no distractions. It's just you and God, and God's preparing you for something. But I asked God for that, if he would send a special friend. And after that, I just got up and went about doing things. And maybe around 2:00, the door opened and two ladies came in. And I called, "Hi, come on in." And when I went up to say hi to them, one of them was Terry from Nana's Crochet in California. I'm in Pennsylvania. And I have always thought Terry is special. I don't know why. When I think of Terry, I just think she's special. And we've written back and forth, but anytime I've watched her podcast called Nana's Crochet, Terry's sitting in a wheelchair. And she had a major event in her life and that really affected her health and almost killed her. And she's standing at the door of my shop with her friend, Donna. And my mouth just drops and I say, "How are you here?" And she says, "I drove." Well, I gave her a hug, and all of a sudden the shop got really busy. Everybody started coming, which is really unusual. And I'm watching Terry with her little teeny tiny skinny legs walk around the yard shop. And I'm behind the counter just trying to get a grip on this. And she walked up and said, "Didn't you notice I'm walking?" And I'm I'm trying to figure this all out in my head. And so, after 20 years, I just decided I'm going to walk. And my doctor said, "Well, I need to see that. Come in and show me." Not only that, she put her house up for sale, bought an RV, and drove from California to the East Coast. Oh, so that was an amazing thing that she did for me, because I found out they drove 2 hours and 40 minutes to come see me. And then I was closed, so they drove all the way back and came back. But not only am I so thankful to those two ladies, and Terry said, "Well, I'm going to feel like an idiot if she doesn't know who I am." And I said, "Terry, I could be any place in the world and I would know who you are." But it was that God showed to me that in all my distresses, he loves me. And that I was just so floored by God's love. So floored. So this pattern is almost finished. This is so cute. It's called the Cupcake Hat. And it is by Becky Veverka. And this is a yarn at the shop that's an acrylic, but a little fluffy, a little fuzzy. And it seems like because of that, people don't want to buy it. And I have never knitted or crocheted with it, but it was a pleasure. It's soft. So you do what looks like a cupcake paper, but I'm thinking this isn't an ice cream cone, so I don't know why you would have to do it in tan. And then it's a free pattern. You do these nups. It's just one row, but it does take some time because you go in between your first and second stitch and bring out another stitch and do it again till you have 4. Then you bind off and then you knit 1. And then you just repeat that. It kind of looks cuter from the top than when they show babies from the bottom, because it looks like these kind of fly out. So what I need now is a little red pom-pom or some kind of, red for a cherry on the top. But I have a yarn called pom-pom, and it has all these little balls in it, and I want to do it in that. It's a pretty quick knit. I'm sure you could make it bigger by adding some repeats. And I thought I had the pattern here, but I'm not sure. But it's called the Cupcake Hat. Now there are several patterns called Cupcake Hat, but this one is by Becky Veverka. So I'll show you that the next podcast, and hopefully the new one that I'm going to do. I have a yarn called Babe Jazz, and it makes good socks. And it has all, so I picked this color. It's almost like a forest. It's golds and kind of like purpley browns and pine greens and whites. And I plan to call this Sunlight Through the Forest. Now, I used some mohair with it that is not one solid color. It is, I think, a Lanagato silk mohair, and it's striped. So when I started out, I patterned this after the Stockholm hat, but I decided not to do the funny decreases. I was really happy with the dark colors, and it's much darker than what you're seeing there. But then when I hit the spring greens of the mohair, it became a totally different hat. Kind of is what it is. I created, after your ribbing, just doing a row of purl to make a nice little line there. And I have my own quirky way sometimes to do hats where you get up to the top, you knit two together the whole way around, and then you do 1.5 inches and knit two together, and then you just draw it tight. And it does make a nice hat. Because I have so much yarn left, I guess I could do socks. I decided just to do another hat. So it's an acrylic yarn, but the mohair makes it a lot warmer and fuzzier. And yes, you can't throw it in the washing machine. But you know, how often do you wash a hat? You can wash a hat in the shower, right? Right. So I'll just show you a few more things because we're now at 37 minutes and I try to keep it short. This is the Afghan I'm working on. Little pumpkin I did with some fuzzy yarn that I have to put the top on. Some other little pumpkins. This is the Shy On Chevron that I'm doing. It's done with single crochet, which is the stitch and crochet that eats up the most yarn. And it is a fun pattern. The only thing that I'm not happy with is every row is done on the right side. But when you start out, you do a chain 1. And then you do 5 single crochets. So you get a really nice edge. But when you end it, you just do your 5 single crochets and pull it through. And you don't get that completed look on your edge. I don't know, maybe when the strands are all tied up, you know, so I have my first stripe done, and then the navy blue, 3 rows of the white, and then I have a solid green. I'm hoping to get 2 rows a day done to get it done by Christmas. And what else am I doing? I am doing, here is my solid green color for that. I am doing a pattern called Meredith Ladies Cardi by Ruth Maddock. I actually have 2 started. This is Plymouth, Essex, which is just a twisted yarn, not necessarily a plied yarn, but it's a bulky yarn with a tan or a dark taupe twisted around it. And I'm just at, oh my goodness, I'm losing my stitches. I just did this row before. Oh, that's not good. Oh, ladies, gentlemen, always put your point protectors on. I just sat it aside for 1 minute. But There's a knitter that started coming into the shop, Bridget, and you can't really see this because I can't really stretch it out, but this is my project. She used to knit up a storm. She was a airline stewardess, and on layovers she would knit Afghans and Afghans and Afghans and Afghans, and she picked out an Afghan with these baubles on it, and she came in 2 days later and said, this is the fourth time I've put all these stitches on and tried this. So what I said to her is, let's put stitch markers on between your pattern repeats. Well, guess who didn't follow their own advice? So my husband and I were playing a game today, and I zipped through a row. Now you have slip, knit, pass, slip, stitch over. You have slip, knit two together, pass over. And I had to go back, and it's not fun taking all them out and hoping you don't drop a stitch. And then I decided to take my own advice and put the stitch markers on. I think once I get the yoke done, this will really go fast. I'm doing the medium size. And if I missed anything, I'll get it the next time. So I wanted to comment on the war that's going on against Israel. And no matter what nationality you are, that you're listening, God's word is truth. And God says that Ashkelon will be destroyed and no longer inhabited, and Damascus will go down in one day. It'll be there and then it won't. And you can look those prophecies up in the Bible. It's not what I think, it's not what you think, it's what God says, and all God's prophecy comes to pass in his time. But what I wanted to go to was the book of Romans. Paul was persecuted many times, whipped, beaten, hungry. He knew, he said, what it was to abound and what it was to lack. And his whole life was dedicated to the glory of God. And if you have never read Romans chapter 8, it is beautiful and it is comforting. And many years ago, I had this patient. Now, some people get upset when I talk about patients, but you know, when patients have been dead for 20 and 30 years, and it's a good story, I don't see the harm. And I know Eva would want her story told. So Eva was a little short, very heavy woman. And when she started to lose a lot of weight, I was concerned, but she wasn't, because she thought it was a good thing. But it turned out she was really sick. And I went to see her. I just popped in to her family home where she was living. And she'd been suffering a lot. And I told her this verse. This is Romans 8:18. For I consider, or I reckon, some Bibles say, that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared to the glory, with the glory which shall be revealed in us. And it tells about how all creation is groaning to be redeemed. And one day it will be. But what I wanted to read to you is, and we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. So when you love God, no matter what happens in your life, God will bring good out of it. And I also said to my husband, when you have that photograph of your life with all the people that are just disappearing, God starts putting new people in your life, people that he is bringing into your life. And I want to share, before I end, some things I heard off different Christian YouTube podcasts. One, the pastor said, God will never take anything away from you without the intention of replacing it with something better. Trust that God will put the right people in your life at the right time for the right seasons. God's plan is always the best. Sometimes it's painful, it's hard, but don't forget that when God is silent, he is doing something for you. Isaiah 43:19, see, I am doing a new thing. Then he said, why God removes people from your life, or why God allows it. I mean, you can lose sons, daughters, grandchildren, best friends, husbands, and it isn't that God causes this, but here's what he said. Because maybe they're interfering with God's plan for your life. Maybe they're toxic people and God is protecting you from them. Maybe this person is needed someplace else in God's divine plan. They may not be right for you at this time. The timing isn't right. God has better things in store for you and better things in store for them. But when people leave, don't chase after them. People come and people go. Sometimes they're only here for a season. Sometimes they come back, but you can't force it, and you can't make that the idol in your life. You gotta always look to God, and God wants praise. If you're not praising him, then it's time to get started, right? It's time to start worshiping, not just asking God for things, but praising him because he is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, who made all creation, who made you as his masterpiece. If you haven't heard Laura's story, 5 Best Songs on YouTube, I think you would like that a lot. So thank you for spending time with me. Keep shining. Shine, baby, shine. Let everybody see that inside sunshine, S-O-N, sunshine. And I'll catch you the next time.